The stage was set. The Zionist movement had taken control of the diamond mines of South Africa and used a man named Cecil John Rhodes as a front man. The Rothschild Bank of Europe, a Jewish bank, financed him. And they were able to harvest all those diamonds and then use the sale of those diamonds to build up a war chest. So by 1914, they could close it down. I want you to recognize that Britain was the leader of the world in the technology which led to all of this. The Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, that Dedžal, the age of Dedžal or the Antichrist, would also be the age of riba. Riba, one form of riba, is borrowing and lending money on interest. But another form of riba is a transaction based on deception, which yields a profit or a gain to which one is not justly entitled. In other words, what the Americans call a rip-off. Today, the whole world, the economy around the world, is in the grip of riba or usury. But notice that the modern riba economy originated from Britain. It is the Bank of England, which was established at the end of the 17th century. The Bank of England, which began the effort, which spearheaded the effort for the establishment of today's modern riba economy. Not only through lending and borrowing on interest, Britain became the money lender of the world. But more than that, to substitute real money with paper money. It is Britain, whose Bank of England, at the end of the 17th century, who began to issue the first paper currency. And once you begin to issue paper currency, your capacity for establishing a riba economy is now tremendously enhanced. But we have a lecture on this subject coming up, Islam and the International Monetary System. The Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, that the last people to come out to Dedžal, or the Antichrist, will be women. The last people to come out to Dedžal or the Antichrist will be women. And a man would have to return to his home and tie down his wife and sister and daughter to protect and preserve them from Dedžal, the Antichrist. Indicating that when Dajjal's mission is close to its climax, something strange is going to sweep the world of women. That they are going to be deceived, utterly deceived. That what would appear to them to be the road to progress, which they will eagerly grasp and embrace, what would appear to them to be a revolution in the world of women, the likes of which mankind never witnessed before, would in fact be Dajjal's deception. I believe you will share with me the view that the prophecy of the blessed Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is today being unfolded in the modern feminist revolution and its so-called struggle for women's liberation. That also is a topic which is coming up in our series of lectures. But do you know that Britain, the island of Britain, initiated and led the feminist revolution? I present all of this information to you to argue the case that the island in the hadith of Tamim ad-Dari is the island of Britain. Now then, I notice that when Dedžal is released in a day which is like a year, and Britain is his headquarters, I notice as a student of international relations, I notice that Britain strangely becomes the ruling state in the world. Come on, you explain to me. How do you explain a little obscure island off the coast of Europe, which never walked on the stage of history? An island that Napoleon contemptuously dismissed as a nation of shopkeepers. How do you explain that that little island establishes its rule over the whole world? Pax Britannia. Britain rules the world. I want to suggest to you tonight that the only man who can explain the emergence of Britain as the ruling state in the world at the time when it emerged is a man named Muhammad. Allah's blessings be upon him. And the explanation is that this is the work of the Antichrist. In 1914, if you would go back and do some research, you will find as yet air power has not as yet come. Your armies commanded the land and your navy commands the sea. And Britain controls the seas of the world. In 1914, Britain commanded every strategic naval port in the whole world. This was not by accident. It is time for us to sit back now and read history once again. It is because Britain was poised at that moment, commanding the seas around the world, and the Zionist movement had accumulated this vast chest of money through the diamond mines of South Africa, that in the summer of 1914 they were ready to strike with an act of terrorism. An act of terrorism which changed the world. I want to suggest to you that the authors of that act of terrorism in the summer of 1914, through which the Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in Sarajevo, are the same authors who planned and executed the September 11 attack on America. There are those who will not be convinced. They will say, no, CNN does not lie. The American government does not tell any lies. No,